I found a wonderful little question and answer couplet in that book by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj called I Am That. And I thought I'd share it. It's got so much stuff packed into it. If I was just to, kind of unpack it all, I'd probably be here forever talking about it. But there's some beautiful things, and I just want to kind of point those out for you. So the questioner is talking to Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, and he's wondering how to kill this ego self, this small self inside, how to have the ego die. So his question goes like this: what is this big talk about elimination of the self? How can the self with a small s, that's how we know it's the ego self, it's not capitalized. How can the self eliminate itself? What kind of metaphysical acrobats can lead to the disappearance of the acrobat? In the end, he's going to reappear, mightily proud of his ability to disappear. So Maharaj hears this question and he says to the guy, you need not chase the I am to kill it. You cannot. All you need is a sincere longing for reality. We call it Atma Bhakti, the love of the Supreme, or Moksha Sankalpa, the determination to be free from the false. Without love and will inspired by love, nothing can be done. I'm going to cover some more in a minute, but that thought right there is really quite beautiful, because quite often in religion, we're taught to, don't steal, don't lie, don't lust, don't, and we focus on putting the ego to death. We focus on the stuff that we're trying to get rid of. And he's telling us something very simple here. Keep your eyes on the positive things. Keep your eyes on the fact that, that however you want to talk about it, he gives you two options there. If you see the other as God, that beautiful relationship between you and the divine that's founded on this unconditioned love, this deep and patient, abiding grace and mercy, that always hopes and always believes and always trusts in you and is doing everything possible to bring you forward. You focus on that. You focus on what you are, your nature. The sages who have done all of this work of purifying the mind and renouncing the things that were deluding them, have found that your nature is love, existence, and wisdom. And so focus on those beautiful elements and repeat them to yourself again and again. Focus on love and focus on a will that is motivated by love. So you keep your eyes on the positive and move toward the positive, and the negative will be left behind. You can't do it by running after all of your faults and trying to kill them. You have to go and become the person that loves, that cares, that's full of compassion, that doesn't see fault in others, but sees the faults in himself and turns to the divine and walks on. So he goes on in his discussion here. He says, merely talking about reality without doing anything about it is self-defeating. So it's not a philosophy. It's not just an idea or something to talk about. This is a matter of really throwing yourself into it. There must be love in the relation between the person who says I am and the observer of that I am. Now this is a subtle thing to know. But when you're sitting and thinking to yourself about something, in effect, you're two people. You're two people because you have someone who's doing the thinking and you have someone who's listening to the thinker, to what's being thought. So you're both this witness and the active component talking to yourself. And he's saying that these two components of self have to love each other. There must be love in relationship between that higher self, your conscience self, that self that's always inspiring you to go higher, and that active self, the self that you wake up with and work with every day. And that there has to be a love relationship between those two elements of yourself, between your conscience and you, as it were, that these two must become one. They have to find peace. He says, as long as the observer, the one who watches the thought, that inner self, the higher self, considers himself to be apart from the observed, the lower self, the actor, the one who's thinking, he says the lower self is going to despise it and condemn it, hate your own conscience, get annoyed by your own higher self, despises it and condemns it. The situation is hopeless. It is only when the observer accepts the person as a projection or a manifestation of himself. So this higher ideal self inside, which is the observer, the ever free, the ever pure, has to know and accept the acting self, the ego self, as a projection of its very own, its family. And it has to have that kind of attitude, that kind of encouragement, that kind of love for self. And you can always set that up within yourself. You should respect yourself in your mental space. You should encourage yourself and believe in yourself and hope in yourself and trust in yourself. No matter how many times you've fallen, no matter how many times you've failed, you always have to be your own best cheerleader. And that is what this love relationship is between this higher self and this lower self within. It's that the two might fall in love with one another, and in that love be bound into a singularity, which would be, of course, the will and mind of the divine, the will and mind of this God or this other. Because when that duality within heals itself, then this unity of all things can be seen and experienced. So this higher self must accept the person as a projection or manifestation of himself, and so to say, takes the self into the self. The duality of I and this goes, and in the identity of the outer and the inner supreme reality manifests itself. We know our nature. We discover that delight of the well-integrated, unified humanity with everything.